There's a version of poor that doesn't look like poor. It drives a nice car. It wears decent clothes. It lives in a comfortable apartment or a nicely furnished house. On the surface, everything looks fine. But underneath, almost none of it is actually owned. It's rented, financed, or leased, month after month. And that distinction is quietly the difference between building wealth and staying stuck for decades. This is what it means to rent a lifestyle instead of owning it. And it's one of the most common, least talked about reasons people earn good money and still end up with almost nothing to show for it. Let's start with the clearest example. The car. The average new car lease payment in America right now sits around $650 a month. The average new car loan payment is even higher, at roughly $770 a month. Multiply that out, and a single car payment can cost someone $8,000 to $9,000 a year, every single year, with a lease building zero equity whatsoever. Zero. When the lease ends, you own nothing. You hand back the keys and sign another one. Americans are now carrying more auto debt than student loan debt combined, and roughly a quarter of new vehicles on the road today are leased rather than owned outright. That's not a car. That's a permanent subscription to depreciation, and it's one of the purest examples of renting a lifestyle instead of owning an asset. But this pattern isn't limited to cars. It shows up everywhere once you start looking for it. Housing that's rented indefinitely without ever building equity. Furniture and electronics financed through buy now pay later apps that quietly stack monthly obligations. Vacations charged to credit cards and paid off over months, sometimes years, long after the trip itself is a memory. Even clothing subscriptions and premium streaming bundles, small individually, but compounding into real monthly outflows that produce nothing lasting in return. None of these purchases are inherently wrong. The problem isn't spending money. The problem is that this specific pattern of spending trades long-term ownership for short-term appearance, and appearance doesn't compound. Assets do. Here's where it gets genuinely dangerous. This pattern doesn't stay contained to people with modest incomes. It scales up with income, and often gets worse the more someone earns. A recent case study of a couple earning $130,000 a year found them carrying $190,000 in debt, almost entirely driven by lifestyle upgrades rather than emergencies. Nearly half of households earning over $100,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck. And among households earning over $300,000 annually, 62% report struggling with credit card debt tied directly to lifestyle creep. Read that again. Households earning $300,000 a year, carrying credit card debt because of lifestyle inflation. That's not a spending problem exclusive to lower incomes. It's a behavioral pattern that simply scales alongside whatever income arrives. The nicer car gets nicer. The bigger house gets bigger. The vacations get more frequent. And the gap between income and actual wealth never closes, because every raise gets absorbed before it has a chance to compound into anything. This is the core mechanic worth understanding. Renting a lifestyle isn't really about any single purchase. It's about where your money goes the moment it arrives, month after month, year after year. If income rises and spending rises with it at the same pace, your net worth stays flat regardless of how much you earn. The paycheck grows. The lifestyle grows to match it. Nothing is ever left over to actually convert into an asset. Compare that to the alternative. Owning instead of renting a lifestyle means directing that same money into things that build value over time. Index funds, retirement accounts, a paid-down mortgage, a business. These assets don't care how they look to other people. They don't provide instant visible status, but they compound quietly in the background, year after year, while a leased car or a financed vacation simply disappears the moment the bill is paid. Let's put real numbers next to this. Take that same $650 monthly car lease payment and imagine investing it instead in a diversified index fund averaging a 7% annual return after inflation. Over 10 years, that becomes roughly $112,000. Over 20 years, it grows to more than $319,000. Over 30 years, it exceeds $735,000. That's not from finding extra income. That's from redirecting one single monthly decision that most households make without a second thought. The car itself isn't the villain here. The decision to keep replacing it every few years, without interruption, for an entire adult life is what quietly consumes hundreds of thousands of dollars in future wealth that could have compounded instead. So how do you actually break the pattern once you recognize it? Start by identifying which of your recurring monthly payments are building something you'll actually own in 5 years, and which ones simply vanish the moment they're paid. That single audit reveals more about your financial trajectory than your income ever will. Then, before any new purchase that increases a fixed monthly obligation, ask a simple question. Am I about to own this, or am I about to rent it indefinitely? A financed purchase you'll fully pay off and keep for a decade is very different from a lease or subscription you'll never stop paying for. And finally, whenever income increases, resist the automatic upgrade. Redirecting even half of a raise into investments before lifestyle expands to fill it is one of the simplest, most effective ways to break the rent-a-lifestyle cycle permanently. The uncomfortable truth is that wealth doesn't usually look impressive in the moment it's being built. It looks like an unremarkable car, a modest apartment, and boring, consistent contributions to accounts nobody sees. Meanwhile, the version of financial success that looks the most impressive from the outside is very often the version that's renting almost everything and owning almost nothing. So here's the question worth sitting with. How much of what you're paying for every month will you actually still own 5 years from now? And how much of it simply disappears the moment the bill clears?